I can't see myself being here this long if I got to deal with this type of situation. This ain't comfortable to me because I feel like if I'm doing my work every day and we ain't got no problem, don't stand over me like I'm your property or like I'm your slave.
It's rare to find a group of men who have been friends since elementary school, but it's even more uncommon to hear their unfiltered stories about life in corporate America. In this video, you'll meet them and hear about the good, the bad, and downright ugly of working for corporations in the US.
Hey fam, this is Ronnie Light, and we have a special show today. We'll be discussing the Black man's experience in corporate America. On this channel, of course, we talk about all things travel, living your best life now. Yeah, so I have three special guests, and I would like them to introduce yourself. I guess I'll start with Big. And just like tell the people who you are, give a brief introduction of yourself, and we'll just go all around.
Hey, well, good morning. Thanks for having us, Ronnie. To everyone out there, hello. My name is Big, also known as Garrett Williams. Started out in corporate. Well, I started my first job at 18 where I moved into management and retail. And that was a unique experience. And then I moved into finance credit collection. I did that for probably about 20 years collectively. And now I'm self-employed doing some things. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, cool. And Chris or Raymond? Raymond.
My name is Chris Jones. A little bit about myself with work corporations. In the beginning, I always worked as a laborer in different companies, like in the shipyard and different stuff. And as I learned, I tried to advance, but I can tell you my experience wasn't like that. Just a brief before we get into it, it was more like, who you knew or if you was qualified. It didn't happen for me in that nature. It always picked somebody with another shade of skin and put them in positions like that. And we can get more into that as we go into the show. But yeah, I can call it, you were disqualified with me trying to advance unless you knew somebody.
Okay, very nice. Okay, Raymond.
All right. My name is Shine, is what the guys call me. Raymond Shine, actually. I work in the corporate sector under transportation and distribution. I've been doing it for about maybe 20 plus years. It's a interesting line and field to get into because you're kind of on both sides, white collar as well as blue. But, the experience is pretty interesting, but we'll get into that as the show goes on.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, everybody. So I guess the first question would be, what was your first corporate job and what was that experience like? Now, I'll just give an example of my first corporate experience. And that was at Merrill Lynch. And I was there for a short period. I was there for about a month. And I was there for a short period because everyone was acting extremely weird. Okay, so I'll just let you know. Like the guy that hired me, he was black. But he was like very light skinned, like had freckles. He could be like some other nationality and race. You know what I'm saying? He looks like one of those. But I worked in marketing. I worked in a marketing department. And I just remember outside of work, people would act normal. But at the job, everyone would act so weird. I remember like my boss, the manager, he would just act extra stiff. His, butt was extra tight. And he would just kind of walk like really weird. The way that he spoke, I didn't know the language for it. He would kind of code switch.
Yeah.
Okay, so he would do the code switch, and I was just looking at him like, okay. And some of my other colleagues, they were white, but they would all just act very robotic. Everybody was super quiet. There was this tension in the air all the time. It was just like nervous energy. I don't know. Everybody was acting extra robotic. I felt very uncomfortable all the time. I'm the new girl, so I'm just looking. I'm just like, this is weird. So anyway, I remember I think the first 2 weeks. It was about 2 weeks. And then the manager and we went out for drinks. And I was very honest with him. I was like, okay, you're talking to me normal now. We're having a normal conversation. We're at the bar. We're having a cocktail. This is good. What are you doing? Like, what's going on in the office? Why are you acting so weird? And I was just like straight up with it because I knew I wasn't going to be there. I told him, I said, I'm not going to be here for a long time because this is extremely weird. And he was like, yeah, it's just kind of like the game. You got to like, this is how the game is played and blah, blah, blah. And I told him about how the differences that I see in his attitude and the way he would speak and everything else. And it was just super weird. So I lasted there for about a month. I was like, I'm out of here. And then I went into social services, where it's like you have to be a human being in order to do your job. I knew corporate was not for me at all. So I learned quick. This is not for me. People act weird. Everybody. So that's just an example of like my first experience. And I would like to know, what was your first experience in corporate and just what was that about? What did you feel? What did you see? Yes. And anyone can start.
Well, I mean, I know we talking about corporate. I'm just talking about working potential. I haven't been in these big corporate
Yeah,
situations.
yeah. It's
And,
what
and I'm just saying experience on like just working, and you could tell, but I do have experience on what you're saying because I even did telemarketing and different things. You always had to talk a certain way, even with telemarketing. If I sound like I was black, there, but if I said, "Hey, how you doing?" You just talk a certain way, you would get customers real easy, and you had to learn how to use rebuttal and sound a certain way. You couldn't sound like, your voice could take you a long way over the phone, and you could get a lot of sales as well as bonuses talking professional, sounding a certain way, and just pitching to people and having good conversations with people. You learn very quick that how you talk, instead of just being yourself or sounding like you usually sound, if you sound like professional, it will give you, advances, and you can get more sales as well as you will get them bonuses. Uh, Other situations, like in work, I started with the shipyard. I had worked for a gentleman. He was from Jackson, Mississippi. Matter of fact, his name was Jack. And the funny thing, he was a white guy and he looked like Burt Reynolds. But he took me under his wing and he trained me in the shipyard. For some reason, he didn't get along with the rest of the people that was over top of us. And he felt a liking to me, and he trained me and showed me a lot of stuff, that all the stuff he knew and experienced. So when he left, he told me they didn't have no choice but to advance me in this position because I showed you everything they wanted to know. And the funny thing was, so when he left, he said, "Go ahead and apply," and they have no choice but to, move you up. And when I went into apply, they told me we got somebody, and I said, "They qualified?" They said, "Yeah." So I went and continued working, and the gentleman came in, and I asked, the gentleman, because they were like, just show him around and show him what, Jack told you and blah, 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 blah. Okay. So as I'm walking with the gentleman and I'm asking him like, how did you hear about this? And he said, "Well, I just got out of school. Um, I never worked a day in my life. And then, this is a good position giving you good money." And I said, "So how do you get it?" He said, "My dad played golf and my dad knew the boss of the company and they played golf together. That's how I got it." And I got mad, and, I was young and black at this time. So I went in the office and I really cussed everybody out in the office, but they didn't fire me because of what I knew. So what they did was like demoted me somewhat, and they moved me to another section. But the funny thing is, that was like one of my first experiences like getting out of high school. I really believed in my heart, if you work hard and you believe that you was qualified for something, that you would get this. But that's when that was an eye awakening for me, because I seen this going on with other people where they kept consistently trying to get these positions, and some of them will move up slow. But I seen it wasn't what you was qualified for, because some people, they didn't have to do nothing to get there, and it was all about who you knew.
Wow. Thank you for that.
For me, things were a little different. My first corporate job, that's when I started out in credit and collections. probably like 20, 21, something like that. Big corporation. I worked for a company called Household, global company. And they had systems and everything was very, very, very structured. You had your 10-minute break or 15-minute break. You had to take it between this window and that window, and you went, everything was very, very, very strict. Not much flexibility. The thing about that I found good is that to be in corporate early in a very, very structured environment, it was something that helped me as I moved into other places that had less structure. I thought it was good. I think it's like being a child, raised in a good family or in a good structure, and then you go out into the world, you go to college where you're alone by yourself. You have structure, tenets, there are things that you live by that are a part of you that you can take and move and do, and you can do better than other people because they're finding their way where you actually have a structure already in place. So for me, with the things I was able to do and able to learn in that very, very structured environment, you had to be very careful how you spoke because every mic, we used to sit in these cubicles, but every mic that was near you could hear what you were saying. So you couldn't just, be like it is in today's world where people just kind of say whatever they want to do, how they want to do. I think structure is good, but I take those things that I learned from corporate and I apply it to the places that necessarily don't have it. And that's why I can go in and excel in different situations.
All right. Thank you. All right. Raymond.
All right. My journey into corporate was just a little different. I hired into a family-owned business. After the military, I got hired into a couple of family businesses. The culture there was a little more lax. You had more of a one-on-one relationship with the owner. When I got into corporate, or the way I got into corporate, is by the company being sold by the family. So once they sold it, it was like, okay, all right, well, we're in a different environment. Now we're in a more, as Big said, a structured environment where there's a set of rules that are in place to make the company flow smoother. There's not a whole lot of interaction between the owners because, of course, it's a big corporation, so you don't see the individuals at the top. You only hear about them through letterheads or whatever kind of communication they trickle down to your immediate supervisor. There are a lot of ideas that they like to put in place to further the goals that they have, like say with the introduction of performance goals in a corporate business. That creates the environment of, all right, well, there's goals that you need to reach and maintain. And if you don't maintain those goals, then you're going to have to figure out what's the best way that you can compete with it. If not, then you're going to have to find some other type of employment. But those goals sometimes clash with the human experience at times. And I think that, if there's a healthy balance of the two, it would be better. But I understand the performance aspects of it, and I understand the goals and what the company want to reach, because a lot of companies, when they do these performance goals, they're trying to cut on their expenses and the resources that they use in order to make the company continue to operate. It's interesting now working, but once we get into a little more, then I'll let you know about that as well.
All right. So my next question is, could you tell me if you even had this experience, like an experience where you were working in corporate and you actually really enjoyed your job? You felt seen as a Black man. You felt like you didn't have to perform and be someone else. You could be yourself. And by being yourself, that was what was needed in that type of environment. So is there one experience, one job where you felt like I can really be myself, and me being myself is what gives me either a raise or bonuses or what have you? Me being me bringing more of myself.
Where there was a bank I used to work for, and I worked for for a wholesale division. It was a unique environment because it was a family. The vice president worked there with his wife worked there. She was the office manager. His son worked there. He was one of the account executives in the same position that I was in. And in that particular office, it may have been about 15 people tops. It felt as if each one of us, like he kind of looked at us as a son, and his wife kind of looked at us, as in that same way. We were treated very, very well. It was a bank, which is very structured. So there were certain things I was able to bring from my previous experience to come in there and do that. But it wasn't so rigid where they wanted you to be a superstar in 3 or 6 months, because everything there was so fast paced. They expect unrealistic results when certain things, it's like you can't be a top surgeon in 3 months or 6 months. It takes time to be able to develop your process and your craft. I was building my territory all over the phone. My territories was, we talking about far away. I think it was Michigan, Missouri, and Indiana. Those were the territories that I worked when I first got to the bank. And it's all over the phone. We didn't even have video conferencing back then. Not video conferencing like we know today, like we're on here and this is not costing a whole lot of money. But back in the day, if you wanted to do a video conference, you had to have T1 lines and, it'd be a fortune for communication. So I was doing everything over the phone. And over time, for me calling people that I don't know, try to gain their business so we could fund, their loans. The one thing that allowed me to do that is that I was consistent. I'm calling people every day and I'm leaving messages because they weren't answering because they didn't know who I was. But every day it was me on their voicemail. Hey, this is Garrett from such and such, just calling to check when, we're in your area. We got some great loan products, such and blah, blah, blah. Every day. And then maybe people started responding or calling back somewhere in that 9 months to a year. So there was a period where there wasn't any communication. Like typically, there was very little, I'll put it that way, very little communication. It took time for people to say, okay, this guy is not going nowhere. He's going to call me. He can call me. Let me see what it is that they offer because he speaks so highly of what they got going on. My personality is what came through on the phone because that's all I had. But I started to build those relationships and I started doing business in those states that I had never visited. I never went to visit for a business trip for that job in those locations, but I was able to start doing business with them and did pretty well.
How did your managers and boss treat you? Like when you weren't getting a lot of correspondence, how was that?
It was a unique situation. It wasn't the response that I got from that location was family run and owned. And the vice president treated us like his sons and daughters. If something wasn't going right, he would call us all in there and he would have a meeting, but he never said, I need you. He would throw it all out and you would have to figure out what part belongs to you. And that's how he handled things. And it worked. I'll never forget. And this is funny, but this is a little bit of a funny thing. So it was all of the guys. All of the guys were pretty much the account executives. And then we had a couple, the ladies were like the processors and underwriters. So we would go out and I had a minivan back then. My kids were small and I was coaching sports. So it was, minivan was the thing to have, like a pile of kids up in. So we would hop in what we started calling the lunch bus and we would all go out and we would, go out and have lunch. And one day in particular, the sales manager that was with us, because all of us we just hung out like they were just family. We made up these rules about the lunch, how lunch is going to flow and who can be, how many friends we can invite, what days during the week and all of this stuff. Because we had some personalities when other people would come in and have lunch, may meet us for lunch. Some of them personalities would clash and we was like, we don't want that to happen. So we having this whole, we out eating lunch and we having this whole big meeting about the lunch rules and, how we're going to do lunch and all. And it's all fun. Everybody just throwing stuff in, right? So at this point, we get back to the office and we probably had been gone hour and a half, 2 hours. And when we got back, the vice president called us in the office and he said, number one, these damn 2-hour lunches going to stop. So, it just goes to show you that he was paying attention, but he had a way to say things that in today's world, people couldn't handle. They would be trying to take him to HR by the things he was saying in his, but it was nothing more than what probably your father would speak to you. but it was in a job, and it was never malicious. And it's the same way that he would talk to us about things we needed to stop goofing off about. He would have the same type of conversations about you and your family. How's your family? How your kids doing? You know, so it was a real unique space. And I was there. I was probably there about 4 years, and the market changed and stuff was going on. But it was a very, very special place to work. And I felt like I could really be, like Ronnie said, I mean, there I felt like my personality is what made the difference about how I started to be able to perform. And we were given the time to be able to grow our territory into what it needed to be, because there was another place when my first mortgage job, 6 months, there was really no training. It was a beautiful building. It was like Madison Avenue in New York, but it was in Virginia Beach, cherry wood everywhere, big, I mean, just a beautiful laid out place. And it's my first mortgage job. I didn't know what I was doing. There wasn't a training program. They stuck you in the conference room and said, read this book. And I don't learn that way. So I started going around and sitting with people and kind of learning from that way. And I didn't hit my goal until the month that I got fired, which was month 6. You know, I hit my goal, but in that place, they were looking for high level performance very quickly. Probably 10 years down the road, this was one of the guys that I was supporting their business because I had developed in my career. I knew what I was doing at this point, and I used to come in and actually I supported their business by being their wholesale rep 10 years later with him in a different company. And, you know, the relationship was there, so he brought me in, and we made some good money together. We really did.
All right. Chris.
I don't think I really had no problem being myself. I think my problem was growth. A lot of times in certain times of working, I wasn't mature enough for certain positions. So I was always kind of like myself. I never been like a person that I would had to wear suits or ties or briefcases and walking in a building or sitting in cubicles. Most of my jobs were either I was up there working under somebody or I was a supervisor supervising somebody. And I think the biggest thing with me was just learning to be a leader and to, you know, make wise decisions and never coming in with personal situations from home, bringing it into the job. Because I would always see so many people who was in positions would let their home come in affect the way they talk and treat people at work. I see that all the time. I will come there and all I wanted you to do was do your work. And if I had to be over you, I never tried to be this individual who will turn, you know, be a tyrant to the people and have them scared of you. Oh, he's coming around and all this. Got to think sweet. Because I like me, I feel like I know when I was working under somebody, I wanted to feel like, yo, long as I'm doing my work, you know, everything is good. I don't need somebody standing over top of me or watching me. And I never wanted to be that individual. I done had people standing over you and you know you working like, and it's like it's supposed to be this intimidation. And I didn't like that at all because I'm like, man, I'm doing my work, but you skeet, don't go over there. You know, don't stand over top of me because it made me feel like I'm a slave. And I never like feeling in any comfortable position like that because that do affects me in my work. I always wanted to be, like you said, comfortable because if you comfortable in a situation and you working, you'll do your best work. But when you got to come here and uneased and somebody's like over you or like you feel like you being forced and you all you thinking about, do I really need this job? Can I find something else? Or, you know, do I got to go through this? This is how I got to go through the rest of my life. I can't see myself being here this long if I got to deal with this type of situation. This ain't comfortable to me because I feel like if I'm doing my work every day and we ain't got no problem, don't stand over me like I'm your property or like I'm your slave. So, you know, I have experienced these type situations working for people. I have deal with so many different personalities when we working together. So it's like my thing is I want to work with people as a team. I feel like if we come together, we a team. And long as and it's just like you the Lakers or you the Bulls with my you know Michael Jordan. I just want everybody. If you be good at something, everybody play their part, man, and get the work done. It's but we go in with these expectations. Some people grinding for money. Some people just look. I just want to keep my house. I want to keep my car. I want to have somewhere to stay. Some people just like I want to move up to a position. Everybody got different intentions when they go to work. Everybody's not thinking on the same level. Me, I just want to be comfortable. That's all. I ain't trying to be the richest man with more money, more problems. I don't need somebody trying to snatch my kids or my wife or somebody and, hey, we want some money. We ransom. This is the problem of America. America put things in perspective that they feel like this is what value to them. What's value to me is peace and love. I want to have enough money to pay my bills and sit around and be comfortable. Where I'm at today at work, I feel like I have arrived to a place that I can do what I want to do. And I don't have them expectations of people on nagging me. I go to meetings. Now I do dress up now, but when I was younger, told you I wasn't mature for that. Big was mature for his age. He wore a briefcase and put on some Stacey eyes. He went out there and did that type of work. Me, Timberland down, hoodies and all that, but I want that person. But I say as you get older, you get wiser, and I learn through the people around me. I absorb information from everybody. And like I say, like Big, my little brother, I absorb information from him. I look at other people, I absorb information from Raymond. Everybody I absorb. So it's like you grow through experience watching other people, how they deal with situations, how they walk as leaders. Even when Big, we was in business together, NCA. You know what I'm saying? He was my leader. So, you got to understand how people roll with people, and you learn trades. And even reading a book like the book Think and Grow Rich, stuff like that. Rich Man, Poor Dad. Big, and being in business with him, I learned more about being a leader and how to deal with people, and had to examine myself when I got in these positions, how to deal with these people. Like I say, I got a lot of people who respect me and they like me because of your personality. A personality can take you a long way. Sometimes I can be grumpy, but I try not to mix that with my work. You know what I'm saying? And I try to have a great personality and laugh at life, because in my mind, life is too short. Treat yourself, don't cheat yourself. Life too short. I try to do the best I can to make the best out of my life. And right now, I'm trying to live my life to the fullest. And I want to do more things. We all got expectations to grow. And I'm still growing and still trying to learn. I think all of us as men on this, on this board, we always talk about, even my brother's not here, but we always talking about being our own entrepreneurs, have our own business, always trying to work together as a group and trying to make things happen. And I know we can do that. And I think a lot of Black people need to get back into that, instead of it's minds are separated. Because if we stand together, we can accomplish more together as we work in unity. But the problem is we got so many people, even on jobs, because even the funny thing, because I know I'm talking about, but the funny thing I could think about, it just came to my mind, how you would come in at a job and somebody older than you, and they got to show you some of the same things so you can work beside them, but they don't want you to know more of them because they so fearful that if you learn more than them and start doing better than them, they're going to lose their position. I don't witness stuff like that. And I'm like, I really don't care if you know what I know. It's just I feel like my personality and what I do, because I'm going to always try to do the best at whatever I do, so that my work stand out for itself. If your work stand out for yourself, cheers. But it ain't like it just got to be me. It could be you and a couple of more people. We can get more businesses and bigger businesses if all of us working strong like this. But if I'm scared to show you something because, he going to take my position, I think that's a stereotype in your mind that we have been conditioned that we don't want nobody else to come up behind us. And that hinders us as business people to get, to have a community or wealth. And I think you see people showing people the key life or key information or helping people and training them to be successful. If we want to be successful as Black men, I think we should train each other to be strong. Now these kids, we got to get back control of what's going on, like the village raised the people. And even in the work, we got to train people to do good. Because if I got a business and my business is flourishing off me, I want the people under me to be just as good as me so my business can go better. I can't worry about, they might start something else, so be it. But if they love me and I'm a great leader, I'm going to continue to do stuff to show them how this business should work and they should grow with. And I think that's what we all, as me growing up and learning in this corporation or people or this job, wherever I go, a lot of us are scared of people that might be better than you because you're getting older, Technology's taking over, computers taking over to a point. We are here talking now, but like Raymond always say, in the next couple of years, ain't none of us gonna be here. Robots gonna be running most of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Robots gonna be doing his driving. Robots gonna be doing cleaning. If I'm doing robots, gonna be, can I take your order? Okay, we have a problem with your bill. All that whole type stuff. So it's like we worrying about the wrong thing because technology is getting ready to wipe a lot of us out if we don't just start doing what we need to do and be independent and start growing. Working for somebody can be a hindrance because you got to stay by their rules and their regulations. Being under somebody who's a tyrant, that's a very uncomfortable thing to do when you're going to work every day. And I advise anybody, if you're uncomfortable and stressed, that ain't healthy. Find something you like to do. Right now, I'm working and doing what I like to do. I like the company I work for. I like the people who I'm under. I like the way they make me feel. Like Big and y'all was saying, it's a family business, and they treat me like their family. And like even when we have meetings or we have go out and we celebrate, he always give all us a bonus and tell us, this is my family. And I feel like when you feel like you part of something and you doing something, you want to go there and do for them. You'll go the extra mile for them. Whatever they ask, you have no problem doing because they got good intentions and you see where your growth is. Any company you can grow in will make you feel like, yeah, man, I can see myself retiring here. I can see myself doing this. And that's what we want to be at in life. Never be under somebody who disrespects you. You see you are never going nowhere. No matter how hard you work, they're not showing you what you are worth or what you bring to this company. I feel like if you had a stumbling block that you cannot grow, you are wasting your time even working there. If you got potential that you want to rise up, believe in yourself. Don't let people make you feel like you can't. And I think that's the biggest thing for people moving up is fear. Fear is an illusion. Fear is something that's in your mind. The only way to know, because there's no such thing as failure. As long as you try, you didn't fail. It might not went your way, but continue to strive and you shall. You can make something happen. That's like any great athlete. He got better by trying and trying. He didn't win all the games, but when he got to that pinnacle that he was good, he got there. And that's the same thing as the work field. All you got to do is just go out there and try your best. And you're going to always do, you're going to come somewhere, especially if you're good. It's so many of us got so much talents that we are putting our talents down because we want to work under somebody when in reality, you might be better than who you're working under. You can proceed way further if you just believe in yourself. And that's the greatest advice I would tell anybody who's working. If you know you're good at something, it ain't going to kill you to try to do it for yourself. The best thing is to be independent instead of being under somebody's thumb. When you under somebody's thumb, sometimes, and I don't mean to go here, but I'm going to tell you a great example, and Raymond probably know what I'm talking about. Ministry. I felt like I have been in positions, and I had older people like mothers would tell me when you doing, oh, you can't keep talking like that. You can't, oh boy, you was good today, but the pastor ain't gonna like that. The pastor ain't gonna like that. And the funny thing is, the gooder you get, because you feel like you're in the spirit, and you just doing it out of love and all this. The people over top of you get mad because they start, instead of them getting the cheers, you starting to get the cheers they used to get. And they don't want to see you progress higher than them. So they started doing stuff to sabotage and try to get you under them and try to control you, or then start trying to, you can see the jealousy, and then they preaching over the pulpit and they throwing you in the lectures when they teaching it, and they talking about you like you're backstabbing them and all this old stuff. But this is the jealousy that goes on in America. This goes on in the ministries. This goes on at work. It goes on in everything. And this is why it's better to have your own, so you don't have to be controlled or feel like somebody's puppet, that you can be your own entrepreneur and you can do your own thing that you like, you love, without feeling like I say, going to work, man, I got to go here. I hate doing this. If it weren't for the money, I wouldn't be here. That's a miserable life. That's a very miserable life.
You make me want to talk about it, but I'm gonna leave that alone. But the one thing you said though is the bonuses. That's the one thing I miss being in a family-owned business. I can recall when we get $200 Christmas bonuses or something like that. They give you a turkey, bottle of champagne. I mean, they were really looking out in that respect. But with corporate, there are incentive bonuses. I mean, don't get me wrong. The bonuses that I get now, they're good. It's just the humanity of it. I enjoyed when, you hear the owner come to you and say, well, look, I appreciate the work that you do. I appreciate the fact that you're going out and doing what you're doing. I mean, I know it's hard work, but I thank you because of you all. This is why this company is doing what it's doing the numbers it's doing, or being successful at that time. That's the thing that I miss in regards to when it comes down to having that pat on the back. I mean, getting your bonuses. It's good. Like I said, it's good, but just the humanity of it. That's what I miss.
You lose the humanity the bigger you get, and then you don't. If the culture
Exactly
doesn't trickle down, then you lose it. Corporations, big corporations, typically are some sucker organizations because they the first ones that'll be like they'll try to throw a non-compete in there on you. And like Chris said, one thing that we studied under for quite a while was leadership. That was one of the things that we studied and we were embodied. We learned from some of the best from being leaders. And if you leading people, they're going to be with you. They're not going to leave you. People will leave you when you don't treat them right. But if you treat people right, they'll follow you into they'll run through a brick wall for you. But, what happens is large corporations have the same mentality as plantation owners. It's really no difference.
Yeah. I piggyback off of that. Because like I said, when you're talking about, I'm not going to say the name, but one of the biggest corporations that run by an individual that has a God complex now. It's all about like I said, it's all about the production. It's all about the pushing the employees to, meet those goals. And you're looking at the workers when they have ailments, they have injuries, and it's up to the lower management to maintain a safe work environment, but also they are being pushed to put out a certain number. And if that number is not met, it's like, okay, well, they're under the microscope for those managers that are above them. But when you constantly pushing the people to a breaking point, then that's where you're going to have those instances where someone is going to talk about the work environment and how dangerous it is, especially when you're incorporating machinery. That person may trip or fall. That person may be slower than that machinery, and then there's going to be something that happens. But if your idea is to maintain the culture of where it's safe, we have to look over certain situations that happen in order to continue the great work environment we're working in. It's like, okay, well, what are you doing at the expense of that employee? I understand there's production and performance levels that you have to maintain, but when does the human, or when does that individual have a moment to be human?
That's not productive anymore in today's world. That's irrelevant. We're becoming a robot first. Humane society. People that lead the companies and to lead the organizations to bring that in, because that's what's going to give you the best outcomes. People don't perform for money. They perform when they feel like Chris said, when they're a part of a team and they know that we're trying to accomplish a certain goal together, because everybody has a part that needs to be done. That's when people perform. When it becomes about money or whatever else, and then people just appreciate you saying thank you. You just won't get that. You say, look, it's some things that you can do that will take a relationship with a person so far, and one is being thank you, and another one is I'm sorry because I was wrong.
Accountability,
the things that cost nothing, right? Yeah, so excellent. Thanks for that. Especially talking about, like Chris, you were talking about the crabs in the barrel mentality. Wow, like in the ministry, at work, everywhere you go. That is something that is so true. Wow. Okay, so my next question would be, what was the worst experience you've had in corporate? And just kind of explain like what made it the worst experience. What was the worst experience you've had?
I can tell you right off the bat.
Think this conversation's lit? You ain't seen nothing yet. Stay tuned for part 2. Click the links in the description to hear more from the creators of the Get Established show. Subscribe to their YouTube channel and check out their podcast on Facebook. This is Ronnie Light signing off, reminding you to go where you glow.